Greetings, this is Body-Culinary. I hope you all are ready for story time. So exciting. We're going to be reading Princess Nefertari by Gregory Walker. Get your fruit, your water, and get comfortable. So are you ready for story time? I'm super excited. We're going to be reading Princess Nefertari, Protectress of the Nile, Book 1 of the Nefertari Saga. Woo! Written by Gregory Walker. Are you ready? Get your water, your juice, your fruit, and let's dig in. Chapter 1. What could they ever want with me? It was nearly noon, and Aten's rays beamed down strongly on the deck of the royal barge as it floated up south on the great sea. Next to the large cabin, centered on the deck, stood a couple of large, burly, brown-skinned men dressed in simple loincloths. One held a huge peacock feather fan, which he waved vigorously at the small ebony-skinned girl lounging atop the velvety reclining couch between the two men. The other servant held up a round, colorful sunshield on a stick, deflecting the hot rays away from her. Suddenly, a large wave dashed against the boat, rocking the vessel and causing the two servants to stumble, momentarily subjecting their charge to the unfettered heat of the elements. The reclining girl's eyes snapped open as she lifted her head, covering her eyes with one small hand. She hissed at her servants, who immediately righted themselves to shield and fan her once again. She shot them both a hard look that said, "It better not happen again," before settling back into her nap. Nearby, a boy around the same size and age, in fact, the little girl's twin, observed his sister with a sour look. He was moving through the warrior exercises he had been trained in by their bodyguard, Tukana, a wiry but strong-looking little man who stood nearby holding a practice pole. Tukana's hair was white, but his eyes were still quite sharp. He was observing the little girl too, and considered her the most spoiled child he had known during his service to 2 generations of Kemetic royalty. "She will be all right after she goes through her rites," Tukana said, tossing the pole to his young student. "I hope so," replied the prince as he caught the pole and began to twirl it, "because I'm not the only one getting tired of her. Our Moot had a terrible time getting her to come along for this, even though she knows it is her royal duty. We must make stronger relations with the Majay people if we are ever to be free of the Set worshippers." Atop her head sat the gold and black striped royal Nims, centered by the head of the gazing vulture Nekhabet. The queen strode forward with a jackal-headed Ua scepter, which, as she looked her children over with disdain, was tamped sharply on the deck to command attention. "I birth you both, so it is I who give orders," the queen continued. "Nefertari, get up and get dressed. You will greet our friends like a proper princess of Kemet. Akmesh, you were told not to work out before greeting our friends, because you know how you smell afterward. Now get into the cabin, wash yourself off, and apply some rose water. Now, both of you, do it quickly, or I shall have Tukana beat you." Both children scrambled into the cabin and ran to the private chambers they shared with the queen. Nefertari began laying clothing out on her bed, while Akmesh stripped, poured some water into a shallow vase filled with soap powder, and began washing himself with a small cloth. There was little space between the bed and wash cabinet, so back to back, the 2 royal children readied themselves as they had been instructed. While tying some golden thread into her braids, Nefertari glanced over her shoulder, spying her brother's soapy brown naked behind. With a mischievous smirk, she reached out and pinched it, causing Ahmed to yelp loudly, "Ah!" and stand on his toes. The princess continued to fix her hair innocently as Ahmed grimaced, rubbing his aching butt. "That's for trying to tell me what to do," Nefertari giggled. "I shall be avenged for that treacherous rear attack," Ahmed replied with a mischievous grin of his own. "You just wait. You'll wake up with sand in your hair or I'll..." Just then, the queen burst in. "What's going on in here?" "Nothing, Moot," they both replied innocently. Moments later, the royal family stood silently as the entourage from the boat, bobbing next to them, began crossing the secured plank linking their vessels. The Magi honor god came first. 6 strong ebony black men draped in red shoulder sashes, wearing purple loincloths and carrying long spears. They took a walk around the entire ship, surveying everything, before settling across from the Kemetic honor god, standing near the royal family. After a nod from the lead warrior, a tall, muscular man and young boy crossed over. The man was dressed identically to the other warriors, except for a shining multicolored collar of royalty covering most of his large barrel chest. They both wore a purple loincloth and had a bag strapped across his chest via a rope. They stopped in front of the queen and children, bowing deeply. "Hail and greetings, Queen Mut-Akhotep," both the man and the boy said in unison. "Hail and greetings to you, Prince Paku," the queen replied. "And who is this little one with you?" The prince placed his hand on the young boy's back and pushed him forward proudly. "This is my youngest brother, Prince Kashef," Prince Paku replied proudly. "Though his is a mere 12 years breathing, he has passed his rites." The queen stepped forward, bending slightly to peer into little Kashef's eyes. She saw what she expected to see: the strength and spirit that the Magi were famous for. Then she placed a hand upon his little shoulder. "Salutations, young man," the queen exhorted, as Nefertari rolled her eyes and Ahmed shifted uneasily from foot to foot behind her. "I have heard manhood rights of your people are indeed trying. Did this include the lying trial also?" The little prince hesitated to answer and then looked back over his shoulder at his older brother. Prince Paku nodded, indicating he had permission to answer a question about their most sacred warrior ritual. "No, Moot," Prince Kashef replied. "They just let me bait a lion and run away. I'm too little yet for the full ritual." "Ha!" the queen laughed. "That alone proves your bravery. Let me introduce you to my children, who shall be accompanying your brother back to your home as you come with me to Kemet. This is Princess Nefertari and Prince Ahmed." "Hail and greetings, Prince Ahmed and Princess Nefertari," Prince Kashef declared. The 2 children stepped forward to bow before the Magi prince, who was a little shorter than them by 2 or 3 fingers stacked. The twins bowed deeply, though. Nefertari, instead of looking right at Prince Kashef as customary, merely cut her eyes at him and looked away. "Hail and greetings, Prince Kashef," declared Ahmed. "Hail, Prince Kashef," said Nefertari half-heartedly. Queen Mut-Akhotep stamped her scepter upon the deck forcefully. "Nefertari, proper greeting." "Hail and greetings, Prince Kashef," the princess said correctly. The queen frowned at Nefertari, giving her the "we will discuss this later" look. Then she turned towards their visitors. "My apologies, friends," the queen stated. "The princess does not relish doing her diplomatic duty to sojourn in your land and learn your ways. She has been impossible." Prince Paku chuckled. "Neither did Prince Kashef want to come," he replied. "He can't stand the idea of living in one place all the time. But I did it, and he knows he must also. And do not worry about the princess. My Moot and the rest of the Majay women shall set her right." "I have no doubt about that," the queen replied with a light laugh. "Now come, Prince Paku, let us discuss some details." The Queen Moot and the prince strolled over to the side of the ship, leaving the children standing together. The children watched them walk away, and then the arguing started. "Why did you greet him first?" Nefertari asked, pointed at her brother and stepping close to the Majay prince with a frown. "What?" Prince Kashef replied. "I know not what you mean. You greeted him before you greeted me." "Nefertari, stop," Akhmesh interjected. "I greeted you both at the same time," Kashef replied, "with more respect than you greeted me." "I did that because you said his name first." "What difference does it make?" Akhmesh said. "I was born first. In our land, that means something," Nefertari cried. "In our land, men are greeted first," retorted Kashef, "unless a higher-ranking woman is around." The Majay prince turned toward Akhmesh. "Does your sister rank higher than you?" "No," Akhmesh cried. "Yes, I do," countered Nefertari. "Well, you are not acting like it," replied Kashef. "You don't act like a princess at all." "What do you know?" retorted Nefertari angrily. "You're just a Nafis." "Nefertari?" cried Akhmesh, shocked. "Nafis?" Kashef asked. "What's that?" "You don't want to know," declared Akhmesh, throwing up his hands. "Sister, you must not say such things about our guest." "An insult?" said Kashef angrily, stepping closer to Akhmesh. "Was that an insult?" "If it was, I'm going to have to hit you, Akhmesh." "Me? I didn't say it," cried Akhmesh. Kashef took off his bag and set it upon the deck and began flexing his fingers into fists. "We are not allowed to hit women in my land, but you are her brother, so I'll have to hit you." "Are you going to let him talk to you like that, Akhmesh?" Nefertari said with an evil grin. "Throw that Nafis off our ship." Just then, the elder Tukana strolled forward, brandishing a practice staff. "Here now, what's going on?" "They have insulted a Majay prince, my elder," replied Kashef with a respectful bow. "Such a thing must be answered in battle." "I am not afraid of you, Majay tent dweller," cried Akhmesh, puffing out his chest in the presence of his battle instructor. "Name your weapon." Nefertari walked over to the elder. Gently taking his hand, she looked up with her eyes innocently widened. "Elder Tukana, this foreign boy is acting so terribly. Please tell Moot it is a bad idea to send us to live among such people." "What kind of fool do you take me for, princess?" replied the elder with a sly grin. "I know you somehow started all of this. In fact, wait." Distracted, the elder peered off into the distance, his eye once again catching something at sea. Then he shouted up at a shipman tying off sails high upon the main mast. "Shipman, to the west! What do you spy?" Holding onto the rope he was wrapping around the mast, the shipman peered off into the distance for a moment. "Two ships, Elder," he shouted back, "coming fast." Elder Tukana let the staff slide from his hand and clattered to the deck as the children stood transfixed. Then he pulled a pouch from his belt. As he leaned down upon one knee, the children forgot about their quabbles and took note of what the elder was doing. Tukana opened the pouch and shook forth its contents, small slabs of stone about the length of a little finger and wide as a thumb. Each slab had an engraving of a Kemetic Neteru, along with other symbols. Tukana turned all the slabs over to conceal their engravings and then mixed them together randomly. Closing his eyes for a moment, he picked one slab up, looked at it, and frowned. He repeated the entire process over again, then leapt up and ran over to Queen Akhotep and Prince Paku. All three of them peered off into the west. Then Tukana began shouting orders at the shipmen. "What's going on?" asked Kashef. "The oracles spoke," Akhmesh declared. "We are in danger," stated Nefertari. Leaning forward over the bow of one of the approaching ships, Tenna squinted, causing his burly brown skin and bug-eyed face to be even more frog-like. As the Kushna war chief of this expedition, he knew the ships ahead were the prey his war party sought. They were in the right area, doing the right thing, just as their informant had said. Now came the time to do what he always hated to do. It was time to go tell the witch. Brother G. Gregory L. Walker is the creator of the African legends genre and a practitioner of the ancient Kemetic Osirian spiritual system. For the past 24 years, Brother G has done extensive research into ancient Kushite cultures worldwide with an emphasis on finding heroic icons of the past for literary, educational, and multimedia use today. The African legends genre is designed to restore ignored history and encourage historical self-esteem in African youth. A recipient of the 2009 Octavia Butler Humanitarian Award for his groundbreaking series, Shades of Memnon. Brother G is also the author of the critically acclaimed Nimrod the Hunter series.
So everybody can grow something.